I had massive success in business and the ego just went whooshka, how good's my life, how good am I? One of the big mistakes I made was I didn't build a life outside of my businesses. In my 20s and 30s, I think ego ran away with me. It was very, very fast and it was also very empty, it was soulless. There was no real heart to it.
When did you realise you needed to make a substantial change?
So I think one of the key things for me as well though is
Geoff Jowett, or GJ, he's an exercise scientist by profession, and he built one of the biggest and most known personal training companies in Australia, known as Vision Personal Training. He then went on to build Bodytrim, at the height of its power, turning over $35 million with over 120 staff.
I got diagnosed ADHD like nearly 10 years ago, chasing dopamine 24/7 and quite often in the wrong places.
And that dopamine chase can be repurposed to other things.
Bloody oath it can, and it should be. And I think if you know to get the dopamine hits from the right places, then you massively amplify your creativity and innovation and whatnot for the next 5 hours thereafter.
So what does a dopamine hit look like for you now in Geoff 3.0?
Well,
how do you measure what your version of success is now?
what I've realised...
Geoff Jowett.
Hello, mate. How are you? Well?
Mate, I'm great, GJ.
Good stuff.
GJ
Good stuff.
Gardner, as we sometimes call you.
Yes, yes.
Famous.
Good to be here, mate. You're looking well. Your shoes are incredible. I'm jealous. I'm going to go and have a ceremonial burning of my own shoes after this, just in disgust with my lack of style. I've dropped the ball. I'm a 1 out of 10. They're 11 out of 10. They are mint. We need 20 cameras on them. They're that good. Everyone needs a pair.
Wow. I feel like that was just an intro right back to me.
Mate, I'm here all week, or at least for the next 30 minutes, as you said.
Mate,
yes, so let's double down, eh? Yeah, rock and roll.
It'll be a punchy 30 minutes.
Hey, question. People listening to this podcast, they're seeing the video content
There's
as
a
well.
video side and an audio side.
Right.
So we've got listeners and viewers.
Let me tell you, folks, if you are a viewer, you got to just have a real good butcher's hook at those pants. Look at them. They are velvety, cotton. They're special. He puts the Melb into Melbourne. Melbournians are moving to Adelaide. They just can't keep up with the new standard, Mark Kent. Well, it's great to be here.
Wow, I love that. The energy just comes up whenever we're chatting, mate. I love your banter.
I try my best.
And got to give props to my good friend Vince Varker. I hope to get him onto the pod one day. He's one of the best fashion guys in Australia.
He's a thought leader. It's evident.
It's evident. Well, he's found something that I feel comfortable in, and I like to wear stuff I'm comfortable in when we're having a conversation that could go almost anywhere.
And often does.
It often does. So, look, that big intro I've just given you, Geoff, like there's quite an arc there, and I sort of feel that there's a first version of you that's kind of this business part of the journey, and then there's like a 2.0 on the other side of a bunch of events, and I believe that you're moving towards a 3.0.
Mate, I think I'm about a 37.6. I've had that many starts. More starts than Gun Sing, I think. When you said arc, I thought of the gay nightclub I used to frequent back in circa 2004.
Yes.
So I've had more hits than Elvis, starts than Gun Sing, mate. So lots to talk about, 2.0, 3.0, everything.
Yeah.
My life.
Well, mate, look, so firstly, give some context, if you can, to when you're in the height of this business journey, right, the most colourful sort of top of that sort of climb. What does life look like in that scene?
Mate, life, what does it look like? It looks like rock and roll is what it looks like. It looks like hashtag living the dream, like everyone used to say to me on texts and Ivy Pool Bar or wherever I'd be frequenting. And, yeah, it looks amazing, and it can be amazing. And it's, I just think money makes you more of what you are. And if you got a few defects, and if I was a Toyota Corolla, I wouldn't have got off the production line, MK. I'd more, he failed too many. So they just get magnified. You know, my life was great. It is great. It's just, for me, I think the key is just what goes on in your head between your ears, because no amount of money is going to solve it. It only makes it worse. We think it fixes it, but it doesn't. It just exacerbates pre-existing conditions between the ears, in my humble opinion. And, I was sort of the average guy at school as well. So, average sports. I went to an academic school, but average sports, and was average with the girls. I wasn't, Brad Pitt's twin brother, separated at birth, unfortunately. So I just did my best, middle of the road. And then I had massive success in business, and the ego just went whooshka, how good's my life, how good am I? Next minute, fast forward, well, there's no happy ending to that road, right? You got to somehow keep your feet on the ground, and if you don't work through your own stuff prior to wealth, it's near impossible. Like so,
Yeah, well,
that's what I got out of it, and grateful for the weight loss stuff, the sports science, fitness centres, and mate, great to impart such change and contribution. One of the big mistakes I made for people listening, though, was I didn't build a life outside of my businesses. And in my 20s and 30s, I think ego ran away with me to a degree, but I just didn't take time or have any interest in any hobby, or like I'm going to hit some golf balls after this, the golf club I'm a member at. And like I played golf growing up as a kid, but I stopped when I started Vision Personal Training, and I was like the Vision guy, then I was the Bodytrim guy, and it was just business building, entrepreneurship, and Larry Emders.
Yeah,
Benders,
Larry
right?
Emder. For those of you who aren't aware, the Larry Emder is a bender.
Rhyming slang, Aussie. Yeah, so it was...
No offence to you, Larry, either. It's not directly related. It's more about the sound of your name.
No, Laz, one of the greats.
So when you were in the height of that business power, that business success, like who were you hanging out with? What were you driving? What were you eating? Like I just want to paint some colour into that picture for our listeners and viewers.
Sure. Well, I was living down the end of Woolloomooloo Wharf, next door neighbours with Brian McFadden, who was on Australia's Got Talent, who also liked a couple of drinks any time of the day, if you will. And so we had some fun times down the end there, and famously jumped the fence of whose house we thought was our friends, but we're in the wrong joint for about 5 hours, and then we quietly just scurried off back to our side of the wharf. So it was just wild days, and work hard, play harder. I was sort of going to the opening of an envelope. I loved my F-grade celebrity status at the time.
F-grade celebrity status.
That was as high as it got, and it's a fool's gold at best. But yeah, it was, Ferraris, Maseratis. It was China doll every night, and some dancing girls in the latter part of the week, if I'm to be perfectly honest. And I'm just propping up the economy any way I can, Mark, and just my philanthropic work at 2 a.m. that I was renowned for.
Yeah.
So that was in the latter part of the week, and if it was at the precipice or at the height of my looseness, it might have also bled into the start of the week, and just some wild times. So it's kind of Wolf of Wall Street in the weight loss space. The products were great, the weight loss systems and so forth, great, but my lifestyle was it wasn't green juices and yoga at that point.
Yeah.
So it was very, very fast, and it was also very empty. It was soulless. There was no real heart to it, and I got lost in all of that, and lost to about who I was and what makes me happy, and all of those bigger questions as we get a bit older in life, and what's it all about, and just trying to be happy more of the time, and that sort of jazz. But also rest assured, like the only person who you can ever, there's no benefit blaming anyone else, because I was there for all of it, and as is everybody. So we just got to look at the part we play in our life, and the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. What did I learn? How can I be better? That sort of stuff. And, perfectly imperfect, so many cliches. I think what I'd like to say here, because, look, I'm barely on social media anymore. Like, I'm 48 years old, going on 97.
I wouldn't have said that about you as a descriptor, but yeah, tell me more. Why do you think you're going on 97?
I just can't be fucked. I don't even know if we can swear. Can we beep that?
Yeah.
Great,
we'll
beautiful.
Work it out. This is a conversation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, look, I just, the days of, peacocking around, they're long gone for me. I just try and just build out a nice little life and be happy more of the time. But at the same time, like, I've always been innovative, creative, and that by default has made me an entrepreneur. Now, that's the worst word ever. Everyone's an entrepreneur, and I hate even uttering it out loud. But the reality is, whether I like it or not, I'm not a school teacher. Whether I like it or not, I'm not a 9-to-5er. I heard Rogan say something about that on one of his podcasts. Like, he realised that he wasn't a 9-to-5er. That what are you going to do? Well, I never was. Like, so I will do other businesses without a shadow of a doubt, but not the way I used to do them. And I may well make more money, but it's not going into philanthropic work at 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's right.
On
and
Pitt Street.
I think that's a key point. It seems like your definition of success has changed a fair bit.
Massively.
And like, there must have been a time when you started realising that whatever version you had of success, whatever driver was there, maybe it's not as exciting anymore. let's go just a bit past that point. When did you realise you needed to make a substantial change?
So I think one of the key things for me as well, though, is, and I'm pretty open, well, I'm not that open anymore because I don't really do any posting, but I'm open when I'm asked. I'm an open book, right? So like I got diagnosed ADHD like nearly 10 years ago, and that had a massive effect. When you're undiagnosed ADHD, it's like, I'm not saying forget medication, no medication, any of that. It's just awareness of, we get bored. An ADHD person gets bored a lot faster. They're chasing dopamine 24/7 and quite often in the wrong places if they're not aware of what's going on, what's causal and what's a symptom and an effect. And a lot of the stuff that transpired in my life, I believe, is an effect, a symptom of undiagnosed ADHD. And when you understand that, you're not as reactive, impulsive. You understand that you've got an intermittent problem with the dopamine system in your brain. That's just ADHD. Some days it's brilliant, some days it's shithouse. That's why it's so deceptive. But then you can start building. If you don't know where you're at, it's a false economy that you haven't got the foundation to build. And going on nearly 8 years sober now, alcohol's not, I'm not shit canning alcohol. It's just, for me, it doesn't work because if I have one, I may have 1,000, I may not anymore, but it doesn't make my life better. Like, I'm grateful for the fact that, alcohol doesn't exist in my world anymore. It's just there. That's the best way. It just doesn't exist. So if people are drinking, fine. I just don't. It feels like I never have. But when I talk here today, of course I did.
Yeah.
Right. I had 8 trillion. I drank for Australia, surrounding islands, part of the Northern Hemisphere.
He's a former world champion drinker.
Drinking.
And just to be clear for our listeners and viewers, I'm not necessarily like, barracking it. It's just like, but like you said at the start, in that kind of success, like there are parts of that journey that are enjoyable. They're part of that journey where people are growing.
They're awesome. And we're having a laugh before about it, the stories. And look, I think half the thing is we take ourselves so seriously and far out, like such a trap. Like, we're never going to live up to our own expectations, and nor should we. Like, they're not real. And as I've said for many years, no one's as good as they look, but we're all much better than we think. No one's as good as they look. We're all much better than we think. And I said Larry Emder before because I was on Channel 7 every morning jumping up and down, and that's where I got the rhyming slang for Bender from. But Larry, right? And we used to enjoy a Cuban cigar together from time to time. Great bloke. And but like with that path and that fast life, and like that's all great if you've also got a bit of slower life and a bit of like soul food. If you don't have soul food to munch on in that life, it's brutal. If you can come in and out of it and play the part and do the dance, and it's great. And then you fill the cup, soul food, charge the battery, great. But I wasn't doing that. And then you're chasing dopamine in the wrong places, and then like, you're trying to feel, I guess, your emotional state. You want to be excited and enthusiastic and stimulated, but if you're feeling bored, you chase dopamine. You can make a whole bunch of mistakes at that point, of which I made most.
Yeah, that dopamine addiction, and like even your comments about ADHD, like I've had my own learnings about that type of like where that sits on the mental spectrum, and I'm on that spectrum myself as well, very late in life, got some more official advice on it. So I identified with you there when you were saying how you found yourself in situations. It's not like it's the primary driver, but it does actually lend itself more to ending up in a situation because of that dopamine chase on the way. And that dopamine chase can be repurposed to other things.
Bloody oath it can, and it should be. And I think with that awareness and, like with that, what I've come to realise, my theory on that is if you know to get the dopamine hits from the right places, then you massively amplify your creativity and innovation and whatnot for the next 5 hours thereafter.
So a couple of big chunky bits of value there, GJ. Like, you've identified you had a level of self-awareness. Well, you certainly have it now. You have a self-awareness now about your ADHD sort of spectrum part that you're on. Had you chasing dopamine regularly, and looking at it now, it sounds like that you've found a better way to place that. What does a dopamine hit look like for you now?
Well, it could be riding horses, going to the gym. Gym is great, like, because you just get that feeling. You just get those endorphins and what have you. And probably why I was a bit addicted to that for many years as well. So it's more outdoors, just doing things with my dogs and horses and life and new environments, mixing up the environment, people, places, experiences, new. If it's too repetitive, it just gets a bit Groundhog Day for me and what have you. So I think, that all played a part. But in saying that, I think to have breakthrough radical success, you need that. So it's like a double-edged sword. You need to be a bit left of centre. You can't be just boilerplate in the middle on the bell curve. You're not going to invent fuck all. Pardon my French. You got to be a bit out of the box, right? But you got to understand how to self-manage yourself thereafter because you are a bit out of the box.
So yeah, prime question then now.
Sorry, before you ask the question. 200 years from now, there or thereabouts, imagine if you could actually feel, like with some little headset or something, what another person's brain feels like, how it fires. And like that's, I'm sure in some time in the future they'll be able to do that because I'm certain like everybody's experiences are totally different of the same bloody thing based on how their brain fires and is wired based on decades of reactions, responses, etc. Like it's fascinating to me, the human behaviour piece. And then, but that segues into the fact that if we believe that to be true, then we don't take on board people's criticisms or triggers towards us as much because they've got their own version.
And that's a critical thing that I think you've articulated well there, GJ, that everyone does have a different interpretation of an event. Right? So like something happens external to them, it goes in through their eyes or their awareness. And then what usually happens first is that we have a thought or we give it a meaning. And then that meaning usually triggers some sort of emotional reaction or response. And then that's sort of how we hold the paradigm from there forward. So you can see the difference between the two.
Can I tell you something on that? This is one of the best analogies. I had root canal this week.
Right.
Now, root canal, I never, like COVID, insert COVID and other disruptions, hadn't been to the dentist for, won't even say, quite a while.
You got great teeth, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks.
Give us a look at this.
No, up the back there. Anyway, so I had a bit of pain and actually quite a lot of pain. Anyway, rang up, had emergency root canal. Rang up, went in. He's like, mate, I'm either pulling it out or we're doing root canal. I said, mate, let's go.
Yeah.
Now, I'd built root canal up all my life as like, I'd rather root canal than have to sit through that. I'd rather root canal than have to, that's one of my GJ classics. I've said that. I'd rather root canal, mate. I'd rather root canal for 10 days straight than this root canal was the best thing ever. Right? So this is the thing. We build up these stories.
I don't know anyone who thinks root canal's amazing.
It didn't even hurt. It didn't hurt. They give you this is the thing about stories we build up. The stuff through our lives, our parents that we pass on, the urban like legends or myths. Or I went in there, I'm hanging on to the sides, the armrests of the dental chair, like, flashbacks when you lay in a dental chair after a fair hiatus and you look up and the light's on you, you're 12 years old again for a brief minute, right? You're like, I'm back here.
Yeah, I get that. There's just some sort of like, I'm in the hands of others here.
I'm in the hands of others and last time it was shit. So I go in there, this legend, this old fella, I asked a friend out where I live, got it done, amazing. I said, did I just have was that actually root canal? He goes, yeah, that's root canal. Wow. And the point is that all the pain went away. It was amazing. Felt great. So the thing that I thought was the worst thing ever turned out to be the best thing ever and the very thing I needed. Like that's just such a great metaphor in my opinion for so much of the stuff the stories we tell ourselves in our head, or at least I know I do. The stories. These stories are running in the background 24/7. We have to get better at not just observing them, but also just resetting so that they don't run away with us and we don't form all these, preconceived ideas built on nothing about others or opportunities or whatever, because we don't know. Just start by starting, roll the dice, who cares? Quite often people think others are, thinking or talking about them. They're 99% sure they're not because they're just thinking about themselves. The more that we dismiss all that, we just rip in, we go better. As long as we take the lessons and learnings from our past, which is critical. And MK, you said to me before, like, what have you been up to? I said, not much, just a bit of coaching, but really, like, I'm just cruising along at the moment. And because for 20, however many years, it was full throttle, 24/7. I'm definitely not going in that road again, but I gave myself permission to just cruise along a bit. Like, I am not trying to be the richest bloke in the world. I'm not going to make a last-minute ditch for Prime Minister when I'm 58. Like, no, I don't care. Like, I do like sharing my knowledge and helping people, but ultimately, like, if I'm not happy, like, I'm of no use to anyone, because if you're not happy in yourself, you can't be happy for anyone else's success. Trust me, I tried. If you're miserable and depressed, now some people who bullshit, they go, bullshit, you can. No, you can't. You can't. You're lying or you don't know or you're ignorant or all of the above. You can't. If you're unhappy, with your life, with yourself, with your body, with your head, with your whatever, your finances. You can't be happy for anybody else doing well because there's resentments about where you should be. Well, I believe we're all right where we are based on the choices that we've made.
Yeah, we've made choices cumulatively along the way. And those choices, decisions or beliefs have brought us to where we are now,
right.
which gives us the maximum opportunity that we've ever had in our existence to choose what we do next. And what I'm hearing from you there is you've figured out that a lot of that talk that's going on up here and the imagined talk about what's going on out there, if we can dull that noise and even to follow the quote that you've used, we've got to get out of our head and into our life. So how do you measure what your version of success is now? Because it sounds a lot more related to happiness.
Well, podcast Flow Zone.
Yeah.
Official title, Flow Zone.
Flow Zone.
I love it. We'll talk about alignment.com because to me it's about being in that inverted commas flow zone. Like that's what success is to me. Money never leads, it follows. If you want to have a happy, prosperous life, you can make lots of money chasing money. You'll just be fucking empty and miserable, but you'll have shitloads of money and it'll look good.
Well, you've had that. Like me, you had a $50 million enterprise that was scaling, but for some reason that didn't end up being the driver that kept you going in that direction.
Look, what I've realised probably in the last only 6 months is that I was never motivated by money. It's just that when you make lots of it, you can make lots of mistakes really quickly. You got more resources to fuck up, if you will, right?
Experiments.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And you need a bit of dopamine with a bit of ADHD. Next minute, whooshka. So in light of all of that, so as not to do that again, I need to be doing things innovating things like fleshing out ideas, that space, creative space, new product development. That stuff's me. Like it excites me, and seeing a problem in an industry, in a marketplace, and coming up with a better widget or solving a problem like with everyone's shit at golf. This is why. All these things that stand out to me. I'm too old. I'm not trying to be someone other than myself, just the best version of me in light of my strengths, weaknesses, etc. I'm not going to go and be a bean counter.
It's not your style.
That's
I
not
can
my
tell
go.
that.
It's not happening. If it is, we're all going bust.
Yeah. So I caught on something there. You mentioned golf. That's become a bit of part of your life. I've got a feeling that you're working on something in that world at the moment.
I've been tinkering in the back shed, MK. I've been tinkering.
Is it too early?
No, it's not too early.
Okay.
It's not with those shoes on. It's not too early.
What can you tell us about what you're tinkering on?
Well, this is a good example. I've been looking at the golf thing for a while because I grew up playing golf all my life, and this, please, for everyone watching, listening, I'm not some arrogant golfer I'm not trying to be condescending, but okay, where the idea came from was this. The golf ball doesn't move. The golf ball's stationary on the ground. Now, I grew up playing golf. I've more or less been a scratch golfer most of my life, so I can play. I'm not kind of guessing, right?
Yeah, scratch for those who don't play golf at zero.
It's not, and one of my best mates is a golf pro at my golf club, actually, Greg. And he was a very gifted golfer and incredibly humble. And he did 4-unit maths at school. So he's smart, understands maths and physics. So I just said to him a couple of years ago, I said, mate, the ball doesn't move, but everyone's shit. And golf technology's gotten 1,000 times better in the last 20 years, and there's less scratch golfers now than there was 20 years ago. And there's way more people playing. That doesn't add up to me. So then I just go and tinker in the back shed and work out why and forget that it's golf, but actually take it back to physics, momentum forces, angles, because that they're the constants. And I think people are shit because they override all these constants, the laws of physics, if you will. And when you're overriding them with your own manual override, well, it's intermittent at best. So I've been playing around with this, and it will roll out a system in time. But the timing's got to be right, because if I'm rolling out a system to an audience of 7, pretty sure it's not highest and best use of my time. So if we can build an audience,
have a bigger audience than 7 here that's going to have their appetite.
No, of course.
This one might make it to your socials even.
No, of course. No, but the golf, golf and other things, mate, I'm at a stage, I'm 48, and I'm happy not having all the answers. I don't need to know where I'm going to be in 10 years' time. None of us actually do, but we think we need to. And the scary thing is for people, we crave certainty, we hate change, but when there's no certainty and there is change, that's a dangerous dynamic for most people, right? When there is change, and what did I say? Yeah, we crave certainty, we hate change. When there is change, And there's no certainty. It's dangerous. It can be, you know, it's stressful. You
Is
just let go.
that the imagined response that it's dangerous? Is that what you're suggesting?
I think it's just that people get like stressed and they don't make good choices. Like they worry about the what if scenarios creep in because they crave the certainty. It's not certain. What about X, Y, Z, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3? Who knows?
Well, we all need a little bit of uncertainty in our life, right? It's on, you know, Tony Robbins has got his own hierarchy of needs, which includes certainty, uncertainty. You know, then there's like significance, love and affection. Then it goes into growth, contribution. So it feels like you know, when I say it feels like this, the way you're explaining this to me, it's much more a self-actualization. You know, you've become aware of how your neural patterns work. You've looked at the history to date and you've made it okay that success is different for you. It's not a monetary.
Spot on, without a doubt, 1,000,000%. Mate, the days of, because I actually thought many, many years ago, like, this is a long time ago now in my 20s, but if I was on TV all the time and everyone knew me and I had a business, life would be perfect. That doesn't mean that any of that's bad, but it doesn't directly correlate to perfect. There's so many other bits to it. Like all of that's good. Being on TV is great. Doing all these things, making lots of money, all great. None of that's bad. But if that is what we're looking for and we just think that's going to, I'm there, I've arrived, that's when people go, oh, you hear it all the time. But we've got to be careful. We don't demonise that. All of that's great, but you just got to be aware and build a life along the way and have a hobby or something outside of that. You just don't want a relentless pursuit, forever striving to never get there. Like, I'm here now, chatting to you. Boom. And being playful and curious. My approach to life is like this. Imagine it's a video game and you're a wizard and you got a wand, right?
I'm liking this one. I'm in the mode. Hang on.
Right, you're a wizard. Insert my beard, right?
Your beard. Okay, righto.
Beautiful flat
Mine's
cap.
not quite a wizard beard.
And you're in this game and you got a wand, blah, blah, blah. But the wand only works if it's got fairy dust, and in the game you got to go to the dam to fill it up with fairy dust, right? So there's all these punters in the game and they get started and they go and attack the game out in the world, but they got no fairy dust in their wand. So it doesn't work. So they can't pick up the trinkets and get the things and progress in the game. Right? Now, if you were playing a video game and you knew, and say you're a wizard and you got a wand and it works on fairy dust and you got to replenish the fairy dust at the dam, you're going to go there first. You're going to fill up your wand with fairy dust at the dam and then go and attack the game. That's where we're not doing in life.
What? We're not?
We're not getting the soul food, charging the battery, the metaphoric fairy dust in the wizard's wand in the game. Like, if we gamify life, I think we go better. We've got to gamify it, because the one thing I know for sure, we're all brown bread at some period, for sure. So we've got to enjoy it. But it's such a cliche, but it's true. And like, nothing good happens when you're triggered, stressed, angry, frustrated. For me, nothing. You just burn everything you touch. So it stands to reason that we don't want to be angered, triggered, fearful, all of these negative emotions, low frequency vibration. We want to be high frequency, positive, grateful, love, not just lust, but love, you know, for people and the animals, people, all the things in our life that, you know, the deeper love and connection. Connection kills addiction. And if we look at it like a video game, then we can do that, because we fill our cup, we charge our battery, we get the soul food, and then we go and attack life. I'm not saying don't attack life and business. I say I am, but you need the fuel. Because I love people, but if you're talking to a lot of people every day, it is draining, right? Like, it's not easy. And if someone's in sales or customer service, it's not easy at all. So then
you can become worn out.
Massive.
Even doing something that you're naturally gifted at.
Without a doubt.
And I think this is a little bit of a trap, but if I was comparing, like, you know, you've definitely had something you were naturally gifted at, being an entrepreneur, growing a business, creative curiosity, you know, forming an empire, bringing others on the journey. It's all there. It's an element, though, of all of your gifts and all of the things that you could include. So, you know, now we're living life a lot more in flow, in the flow zone.
Well, the flow zone thing I'm big on also. And also, look, this I can't monetize, but as you get older in life, I observe life more and I look at how things, based on my emotional state, what happens next in my life. Like, if you're feeling shit things come your way next. If you're feeling good, generally opportunities, different doors open, sliding doors. I don't know how it works. Analyse the roots or pick the fruits. I just pick the fruits. And I don't pick them all the time because I'm human. So, you know, I just do my best, and some days I'm not as good as others, but we keep moving, and that's the key for everyone. And knowing that, like, remember, when you're listening to a podcast or anything, like, you're seeing the best of people, not the worst. You're seeing everything's a bit of a highlight reel that's online, really, and people, which is great because there's so much learning and takeaways and whatnot, and it's great to learn from others who've walked, the path before you, etc. Critical, fast track, expedite the process, but don't put them on a pedestal because it's not where they deserve to be. Don't put anyone on a pedestal because they've all got their own issues. And in my experience, the people who've got astronomical wealth have generally got more issues than the Daily Telegraph, and that was a huge driver for their wealth, and that's fine. But don't put them on a pedestal of greatness that you're not. You can be, should be, will be if you do the basics and work out what works for you, the individual, not the Elon Musk or whoever it is online.
Yeah, well, what I'm picking up from that is really that the elements that we put people on a pedestal for are still just one element of the picture. Like when you're at the height of your power, down there in the morning, doing the treadmills and all that sort of stuff at sunrise, this is actually going to help because the podcast is not meant to be about just the good bits. We're looking here at your arc, right? So tell our listeners and viewers, just like quickly, because we are obviously, we're deep into our punchy episode here.
No worries.
What does a very dark moment look like in the, from through your eyes when everyone else thinks you're being really successful? What's a dark moment look like for you back then?
Well, the dark moments back then, well, it was more after I'd had big nights. It just took me you just think everything's horrible. If I had a bender, I'd be just like, oh.
Where would you be? Where would that have been?
Where would that have been? That'd be, I was in Sydney, living at the wharf. So you post-bender, you have a pretty solid sleep and then just drag yourself around for a while but it just, nothing's colourful. It loses all its colour life. You're just sort of surviving, definitely not thriving, as they say at that point. And it's horrible. And it just took, zero serotonin, I think. It just took so long to come good and just dark, nothing. There was no emotion. It was just like I felt empty, felt sad and empty, but I still have sad times at times now. I think we all do. Well, I do.
I imagine that. But what you're saying there with no serotonin in the system, you've fried the dopamine receptors. There's not much to look forward to. Plus, there's some real physical stuff going on in your system at that stage. So how many of them did it take for you? Or what was the catalytic moment where you go, look, I've had enough of this?
Well, I'd had enough of it from about age 35, but
how long did you keep going?
Being the trooper I am, I'd bolted on another 5.
Wow.
I had, actually, no, at 35 I had 2.5 years off alcohol and drugs when I was doing the TV every day.
That was your first, change, I suppose. And
but I was in an environment that was pretty loose back then. Yeah. So that sort of wasn't, didn't help matters. But so
when
I started.
When you say loose, what do you mean?
As in other people that were in my circle were big drinkers and partiers and whatnot. So it was sort of hard to be. I found it challenging to be not drinking.
So you were doing that when your other friends were still going for it?
Yes.
That would have been challenging for sure. What kept you going then? Because that's kind of more like the 2.0 version, I reckon. It's not the full transition, but what kept you sort of clean during that when everything was going on around you?
TV. I had to be on a morning show with Larry. I rocked up a few times dusty and then I went, I'll give that a miss and got off the piss. But then I just went and, got back into competitive bodybuilding. I went from benders to competitive bodybuilding overnight. And
so it's sort of like a little bit of an addiction there. Exactly. You just put it into another category.
Addiction. Complete. It's like I've got to be careful because everything I touch I can, go ballistic on.
Do you think you're free from addiction now?
You know what? I'm not arrogant enough to say yes because I don't know. And maybe I'm addicted to horses or something. I don't know. No, I don't know. I'm aware that it's there, but I'm not naive or ignorant enough to say, no, I'm on top of it all. I don't know. But in terms of alcohol, that doesn't exist in my life. Cocaine, gone. No more white sausages on Jeff's Barbie, folks. I'll give you the tip. Those days are gone. Yeah, but I don't know, MK. It's a good question. I don't know the answer. I know what to avoid. I'm cognizant of my traits. And I'm also aware that we can change the brain, as we talked before the podcast, and I work on things to try and strengthen the neural pathways that make us better and weaken the ones that make me, worse. And And so what else can you do? So you just do your best, and that's good, and take your opportunities when they come, and away you go.
Mate, I love your energy, your calm
Thanks, buddy.
energy, and you've always got so much to give, Geoff. And you did say you've had a bit of a break off socials, but for those of you who want to go and have a look at what's on the archive, I take you haven't taken them down. You're just not putting heaps of new stuff up.
No, they're on there still. Yeah, they're on
and
there.
I look, this embodies the spirit that you're helping people tap into, I suppose. And I just paused on that because you're helping people tap into a spirit. It could be their own spirit, but the spirit is along the lines of whatever your definition of success is, it's yours. Let's go after living life in flow and doing what's meaningful at the time. And if it doesn't feel right to be doing something, then who are you doing it for? And if socials was like a bit of a break for you, you put out a lot out to the universe, but you do some still sort of VIP, sort of one-on-one coaching, a lot of people that are successful in sports and C-suites of businesses and trying to help them.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm again just taking the time at the moment to work out what's next for me because and I'm not in a hurry, and I do a little bit of coaching and that's good, but it's sort of again just giving yourself that permission because if no one's going to give you the golden ticket, right? You got to work things out, and you can't work them out if you're under the pump, and you just and nothing good happens fast. Sometimes you got to take a bit of time to explore new things.
Yeah, I got introduced to you when I was going through like one of my versions of transition, I suppose. I'd been sort of frontline in an organisation, on the ground, working the 80 plus hours a week, like all the client functions and the taking team out for drinks and, like the celebrations and holidays that we were having. It seemed very full on and very colourful, but it was also, it didn't feel like there was much room for else. And when I started that arc, and it was around COVID time that I found out I had a gut health issue that was triggering a lot of other issues, and I had to restore my gut health, and I went on a real health blitz for a period, and it was right around when I met you. And what I was looking for was, how do I create work or productivity for myself? Because I actually do believe it's healthy to have something you're working on. And it's putting the mind to work. The mind needs work to do. And if you don't give it work to do in the direction of what's important, if you've taken time to think that, then it comes up with other things, worry, stress, anxiety, what are other people thinking. And, mate, I want to say a personal thank you to you and those that I know that you've influenced as well. You've been very generous. You've been very open and authentic in sharing your journey. And it's contributed to mine as well. So, today's been really action-packed, and I know that viewers and listeners are going to get a lot from this today.
Thanks, buddy. That's very kind, and I appreciate it. And, it's really good what you just said there. Yeah, the mind needs jobs. The bigger the brain, you got to load it up. Otherwise, it's going to cook up a whole lot of theories.
Yeah.
I believe. That was really interesting what you just said then because you've articulated it. That's exactly how I feel. If you don't give it jobs, it's going to cook some up. And they're all shit.
Sometimes it's cooking itself.
Mate, it's Middle Earth. It's Frodo, Gandalf. Mate, Middle Earth. In the Shire with your hairy feet, Gandalf hitting his head. None of it's real. Right?
Well, mate, that's a good one to end on. Gandalf hitting his head. You have got some wisdom. The beard is still underway, but maybe next time that you come on or I bump into you, there might be a Gandalf beard to go with it. Thanks very much.
Absolute
Geoff
pleasure.
Jowett.
See you, mate. Cheers.
Thanks, Ledge.